travel can be stressful all on its own. And then you throw your loving kids in the mix.
It was tough. Snacks, change of clothes, extra diapers, obviously.
You feel like everybody's looking at you.
Yeah, the ego gets kicked to the curb for this stuff.
Okay, we've all been there.
Welcome to The Air Up There, a podcast about the wide world of aerospace, presented by the Federal Aviation Administration.
Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Leslie Welch. On this episode, we'll be sharing tips and tricks to help parents, like me, with the boarding process, like how to install your child's safety seat in an airplane seat. We have the pleasure of speaking with Mary Garton, who is a flight attendant from the Association of Flight Attendants-CWA. And as a trained safety professional, Mary has sound advice for you on boarding the plane and the safest way to travel with your kids. Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to meet you. You have a really unique perspective because you are a flight attendant and a parent.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I am a mother of twin 10-year-old girls. I'm also a single parent, so that adds a complexity to traveling with two kids that not all families have. So, but I am a flight attendant and travel is in my blood. So as soon as I could get those girls traveling, we were flying all over the world. So
I bet you've seen a lot, both professionally and personally. Is there any advice that you have for parents who are traveling from a flight attendant's perspective?
Sure. First of all, I would advise parents with kids under 2 to bring their car seat, because that's the safest place for all of us. Everyone should have a seatbelt. Know the operation of their seat. We don't always know how to operate your seat. We can help. Ask for help. We're happy to help. Ask a flight attendant. Ask other parents, other passengers. Generally, people want to be helpful. And if they have a seat, make sure it's FAA approved, because that can be a problem too if you bring one that you can't even use.
I remember being a new parent and finances were tight. And I was like, if I can have a lap child, I'm going to save that airfare.
Sure.
But now that I work at the FAA, I see the importance of having your child in a safety seat. So do you have any examples about why that's so important? Have you seen situations where you were like, this child should have been in a safety seat?
Sure. I mean, we just had a Hawaiian Airlines flight with severe turbulence, and a 14-month-old, I believe, was injured. So situations like that, I find quite scary. We have clear air turbulence happening more and more. I'm seeing it when I go to work.
That unexpected turbulence and that clear air turbulence, you think that you're going to be able to hold on to your child.
You think.
But it can be pretty bumpy.
It can be pretty bumpy, and it's not safe for the child. It's not safe for other passengers. If that child goes flying and hits someone else, there could be, a lot of injuries. So it's not safe.
What other issues have you seen with parents flying with small children?
I think families in general, and not all families, but they don't travel as much. They might travel a handful of times a year, so they're not as familiar with that particular airline they're on. Maybe they don't have the app downloaded so they can show their children the shows and keep them occupied, or maybe they don't have headsets with them and the airline hasn't provided them. They're just overwhelmed. It's such an overwhelming process. I feel a lot of empathy for them because I've been there, and I'm also just a kid person, so I want to help. What I used to do is I'd go buy some very inexpensive little new fidget type toys, maybe at the dollar store, and bring them on board with my kids, something they'd never seen before, and pull them out at different times when they needed to be distracted. That can be helpful. Bring enough snacks. Kids get hangry. There's not much to eat on the plane. Don't count on the airlines for your meals that day. That can be a big help in keeping everyone sane.
And sometimes the selections aren't going to fit the palate for your child.
Correct.
As a safety professional, can you tell us a little bit about your role on the airplane?
I'm on the airplane to ensure the safety of all passengers, including infants and toddlers and families. So it's my job to make sure everybody's safe and to be ready at a moment's notice to be a firefighter or a paramedic or any number of roles and to get us all there safely. And I would also add, I think it would be my role to play a little bit in the part of the education with the families if I can help them understand where the safest place is for their children. As a parent, as a flight attendant, I think I should be as diplomatically as possible passing that information on, because I do see families seeming like they think it's okay and it's safe to hold their kids because it's allowed. If the children can't speak up for themselves, I think it's my role to be someone who does. So,
In your role during the flight, what are a few things that you can do to assist parents with children?
resources permitting, right? Boarding is such a busy time for us. We have so many tasks and our flights are so full, but I'm happy to help. We're happy to help. Most flight attendants are happy to help. That's our job. So if you can flag one of us down, we're happy to assist in any way. Make sure you know where to check to make sure that's an FAA approved seat. If they have their seats with them, help them get them buckled in. But we do count on the parents to kind of know, the intricacies of their own seats. But we're happy to help. Make sure they know where they can legally put the seat. Let's not put it in the aisle. Let's put it in the window.
That's a good, I didn't think about that.
There are some places they're not allowed, and that could vary by airline. So know what the deal is on that particular airline. That's something I would want parents to know. But we're happy to help. I've held children while they got situated. I've gotten them, maybe they need some water, whatever it is. I just lend a helping hand where I can because I like to help them relax because I know how hard it is.
Just getting on the plane is stressful.
Just getting on the plane and knowing that you have a crew that's family friendly, right? That we're happy they're there and anything we can do to make them feel more relaxed and make it a good experience.
When we're talking about installing car seats, when you're boarding the plane, there is that extra time to do that. So do you recommend that parents just get in line and get on the plane first?
No, I recommend that parents get to the airport early. And if that particular airline doesn't offer early boarding for families, many of them do now, I would ask. I would, use your voice. Ask that customer service agent, hey, I'm overwhelmed. I've got so much to do to get settled. We don't travel often, Could we have a few extra minutes? Generally, they're going to want to be helpful because if you can get situated, that's not going to slow down the whole boarding process. Everybody's happy. So just helps lessen the stress.
Because on top of installing the car seats, they're trying to stow luggage, maybe put it in the overhead bin.
Right.
With children who miss nap time.
Exactly. It's stressful enough when everything's going fine with your children, but throw in a tantrum or someone who's missed nap time, it's just more difficult.
I remember traveling with my daughter one of the first times and, her ears were popping and she was just screaming her head off. And I was like, oh, the whole flight crew must just hate us,
Right.
But you don't.
No, we understand. It's okay. We've all been there. We've all been babies. It's not always a perfect process, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. No problem.
I think that's a really important thing as a passenger, too, to just give grace to parents who are struggling. There's a tendency to either judge or feel like you're being judged.
Yes. And because you are in your most stressful moment and you feel like everybody's looking at you. We've all been there. And if people don't understand, that's on them. This is life, and it's not always easy. And traveling just highlights the biggest stressors. So if we can do what we can to alleviate the stress, that's always my goal.
I want to go back to talking about that you're trained to be firefighters, because I don't know if the general public understands the extensive safety training that flight attendants undergo.
We attend annual training on everything from fighting onboard fires to life-saving medical issues. We can't always count on there being medical personnel on our flights. So we have to be ready to do the basics, CPR. So we wear so many hats, and we have to be ready at a moment's notice. You got to be ready for anything.
So do you have anything else to share or anything that you think we might have missed?
I would be remiss if I didn't kind of mention one more time that as a flight attendant, I am haunted by flights like 232. That's right at the airline that I work for. 232 was a United flight about 30 years ago where they lost all instrument controls and hydraulics. They crashed in Sioux City, Iowa. And at the time, the policy was to tell the parents to put the kids on the floor. An infant was killed because they weren't restrained. They didn't have a seatbelt. And by the recent turbulence we've had and injuries there, one injury, one death is enough. So I applaud the FAA for having this discussion, and I challenge all of us to do more for our most precious possessions, our kids.
This is Christina Harris with the FAA. I am a mother and a frequent flyer, and I know that family travel can be challenging. Did you know that the safest place for your small child or infant during a flight is in a government-approved child restraint system or device and not on your lap? It's true. When unexpected turbulence hits, it's impossible for your arms to hold your child securely. Here are some tips to help you with your air travel plans. Buying a ticket for your child is the only way to guarantee that you will be able to use a child restraint. Not all car seats are approved for airplanes. Look for the printed message that says, "This restraint is approved for use in both motor vehicles and aircraft." Use a rear or forward-facing child restraint based on your child's weight. You can also use the AmSafe Cares device for children who weigh 22 to 44 pounds. Use a child restraint or device. It's the smart and safe thing to do so your family arrives safely at your destination. Go to faa.gov/travelers to learn more.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this information helpful for planning your next family flight. Remember, flight attendants are trained safety professionals who are here to help you. For even more family travel tips, check out our other episodes in the podcast series, Flying with Kids. And subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on upcoming episodes. If you liked this episode, leave a review to let us know and share it with a parent you know. Thanks for listening.
The Air Up There is a production of the Federal Aviation Administration. For a transcript of this episode and to follow us on social media for the latest aviation safety news and guidance, visit faa.gov/podcast. That's faa.gov/podcast.